Hey guys, Lou with LG Speed and Custom here. In this video, we are kind of going to attempt to work on the 32 today. It's a little tight in here. It is very tight in here. We got a lot going on in the shop right now. So I wasn't originally planning on working on the 32 in this video. We were going to have a Comet day because the Comet's got an intermittent tuning issue that I wanted to solve. But it's decided to rain today, and I can't put the Roadster and the 32 outside if it's going to piss rain all day. And I'm not going to work on the Comet outside in the rain all day today. So I've decided to do an easy job on the 32. We're going to pull this dash out, which is easy. Just a couple screws are holding it in the ignition switch. And we will take the dash over to the bench, and we're going to weld up a couple holes on it. There's a little bit of damage from where the steering column mount was attached at one point in the last, I don't know, how old are 32s now? 90, 91 years? The last 91 years that this car's been in existence, at some point the steering column got ripped off the bottom of the dash. So we're gonna fix that up, and then, yeah, I don't know what we'll do after that. Maybe look at building a steering column mount. We still gotta do that, but anyways, regardless, let's pull the dash out and put it up on the bench and get started. Here's our dash. So we've got a couple holes there, couple over here, up there, this guy and this guy that are not stock on the underside. We've got some holes here. This is the damaged area from where the steering column drop used to be, so we got to repair that. And then we've got a couple pinholes in a few spots. Where was the other one? I think right there. You can see them if you hold it up to the light. Well, I don't know if you can see it on your TV, but they're there. So that's what we're gonna fix in this video, is that stuff. I think we'll start easy. We'll start with just welding these guys up here. And to do that, we are gonna use eeny, meeny, miny, TIG. We're gonna use the TIG on that because it's just a little bit nicer of a weld to work with. TIG welds stay nice and malleable, so you can hammer and dolly them after just to kind of metal finish stuff a little bit nicer. TIG welds are, because they're malleable, they're a lot easier to grind. And yeah, I don't know, it's quieter, cleaner. Takes a little bit longer. A MIG weld is just zap, you're done. The TIG weld takes a bit longer, but not a lot longer. So, and I like using it. So before we weld it up, I think we'll just hit it quickly with the sander to knock some of the roughness out of it. TIG welds, I found, I don't know why it does this, but if you TIG weld right on sandblasted metal, it doesn't work that great. It kind of, I don't know if the sand or the media that's blast this, if it like puts like a residue or a texture or something on it that the TIG weld doesn't like. I don't know. But I do know that if you just hit it quickly with a sander, it's fine. Well, I wish I didn't sand that, because while I was sanding it, I found a whole bunch of other stuff that, you know, wasn't super noticeable. Like there's a dent there, there's a dent there, a dent there. These are all dents from going that way, so I don't know how that even happens, but there they are. And this area here is actually, there's a lot of damage in here. I'm assuming probably from when this happened, like this is all residual from this. This is, I don't know if you can see it in there, it's bowed up. And we've got a low spot, a low spot, a low spot, a high spot. And obviously this whole edge is mangled. So, oh yeah, and look at that, there's more along here. This looks like it was like beat on with a hammer. So man, the things that happen to old cars. And I know a lot of people are gonna be like, why would you ever beat on that? Why would you beat on a 32 Ford Dash with an old hammer? And you gotta remember, like, these cars weren't always collectible. At one point, this was just like a 10-year-old used car that nobody cared about. You know, kind of like a Ford Tempo. You know, nobody cares about Ford Tempos. Well, when a 32 Ford sedan was 10 or 15 years old, like, nobody really cared about it then either. So stuff like this happened. Also, these cars, they made millions of them. You know, they're collectible now and they're rare now, but at one time, it was just a car. It was just somebody's used car. So that's how, I'm assuming that's how stuff like this ends up happening. But we can fix it. We'll fix it. We'll make it better. So I've got the TIG turned on. I pretty much always leave my TIG at 200 amps because with a foot pedal, you can regulate how many amps you have. And that way I can just kind of do it by feel. It's kind of like having, you know, a 500 horsepower engine. You don't always have to use 500 horsepower. You can just step on the gas a little bit and use the horsepower as you need it. Same applies with a TIG pedal. I've got a piece of brass clamped on the backside of this hole because this is a fairly big hole, and weld does not stick to brass. So that way you got a bit of a backer so that your weld doesn't, you know, fall through. It won't stick to that. And also the brass kind of absorbs a little bit of heat as well. I've got a 3/32 rod that I'm going to use, which is a little thick for sheet metal, but I want to fill this hole. So the idea is the bigger rod, the faster it will fill. I also just want to point out how, you know, the reason we're working on this today is because it was raining, and now that we're kind of into this video, you know, the sun has come out and it's actually probably going to be a pretty nice day. All right, gas is on. Let's see what happens. I'm going around the perimeter first, and then once the perimeter is done, then we just go and fill the middle. There we have it. Let's undo our clamp. See, the brass comes right off. And then on the back side, we've hardly got any goober to grind down. But I think I'm just going to switch it to time lapse and do the rest of these because it's the same thing over and over basically, and you guys will get bored if I do each one individually and explain. So time lapse mode. All right, we've got all our holes welded up, and there's a whole bunch of other little pinholes that I found, so I just zapped those up too. This is a nice thing with the TIG is, come on, focus there. Look how tiny that little weld is. Like, you almost don't even need to grind that. So welded those up. Also welded up, this end had a big choink gone out of it, so I just put the brass in there and just kind of made a piece out of filler rod. This corner here, it worked so well on that end that I decided to tackle this corner too. This dash must have been, I don't know if it was laying in the dirt or something, but this whole edge was kind of gone. So I just built that corner up little by little with a little bit of weld, and now we can just use the grinder and kind of shape that back. This stuff is making ends where it's rotted away like that. That can sometimes bite you in the ass. The proper way to fix that would have been to make a new piece, cut this out, weld the new piece in, because that metal is so deteriorated and brittle and gone that when you weld the corners up like this, if you get too carried away with the grinder, as you're, blending this out, this area right here will just disappear into nothing. So I've had that happen before, but I'm pretty sure that it'll be okay on this. Like I said, it's not really the correct way to repair that, but it's just a dash in an old car, so I'm sure it'll be fine. Yeah, I'm gonna have some lunch right now, and then we'll come back after lunch and grind this out. Okay, we're ready to grind this down. So this is pretty much the same as for those of you that watched the video where I fixed all the holes on the firewall. We're doing the exact same thing here. So we're gonna start with, this is a little grinding stone, a little 3-inch stone. It is kind of fat, as you can see. This is not for cutting. And what we're gonna do with this is just knock the tops off of the welds. We're probably gonna grind it down like, maybe 80%, maybe 90% with this. Then we stop and we're gonna switch to this. This is just a little 90-degree with a 3-inch Rolox on it. This particular one is 36 grit. We'll probably finish it off in 36 and then knock it down to 80 afterwards. The reason I'm not going with this right from the start is these discs are really expensive for starters. These discs last forever, and this is it takes the weld down much faster. This would take 30 seconds with something like this, whereas when you start with this, it's going to take a little bit longer. Some of these guys that are kind of on the corner here, I've got a little carbide bit, and basically just gonna, same concept as this, knock the top off with this, and then finish it off later with this guy. That's pretty much it. Pretty straightforward, easy, basic metal working stuff. We'll start on this one here and then work our way across. So just like when we welded them up, I'm just gonna show you on the one rather than all of them because it's just a repeat. But we're gonna start on the top and knock the top down. Like so. Notice that I'm not grinding anywhere on the actual dash, just the weld only. That's because we don't want to, if you get all crazy, some guys grind like that, and every time you grind on here, you're making that thinner. So we don't want to make that thinner. That is fine. That's what we want to bring this plane down to that plane, but we don't want to make this plane even lower. So that's why I'm not doing the outside. Just focus right on the weld itself. We've got it down probably about 80%. So now we're going to switch to this guy here. Same thing, we just want to focus on the weld. We don't want to grind any of the existing pieces. So we're about 98% now with the 36. We're going to take that off and we'll switch to an 80 grit and do the last 2% with the 80 grit. There we go. We want to take it one step further. I'll probably do this at the end with all of it. But finish it off with the DA sander and a little bit of 80 grit. There we go. Done. We're just going to do that, on all the rest of them. Well, there's all our holes done. Turned out pretty good. Obviously, it's not, you know, perfectly metal finished. We had a hole there and a hole there, but we still have some craters here. I don't know if you'd ever metal finish this dash just because of so much of the pitting in there. I think if you did want to metal finish this, I mean, the only reason you would metal finish this is if you're going to chrome it. I think if this dash was going to get chromed, I'd just look for a nicer dash that's not as pitted. But I'm not worried about any of this stuff though, because I mean, that's what body filler's for. That's literally its purpose, is to fill that kind of stuff, and high build primer. This end turned out really, really nice. Super happy with that. And same with this end. This is the one that I was a little bit concerned about, and yeah, it turned out fine. No issues there. Kind of a little bit right on the corner there, where the really thin, brittle material and my weld met. I didn't want to go any further on that with the risk of opening a can of worms. I can live with that. You know, once we prime that, you probably won't even really notice it, and you definitely won't ever notice it when it's in the car. There's going to be wind lacing and stuff there, so it'll be fine. Not concerned. Now we've got the hard part, and that is fixing this. I don't think we need to replace anything there. All the metal is still there. I think we can just rework it with a hammer and a dolly and get this brought back down into shape, and then we just have a little tear here to weld up. As we start straightening all this stuff out, you know, a lot of these dents will probably kind of resolve themselves. Oh, how are we gonna fix that? Probably a hammer and a dolly. I've got this little chunk of railroad track that's really nice. You can, you know, use the ends like that to kind of hammer some shape back into it. I don't know, we'll just grab some tools and kind of just get into it and kind of see what works. I mentioned a few videos back how I got this table saw for free with the idea of making like a fixture table out of it. Man, it is so handy. Like, we haven't even made the fixture table part. I don't know if I ever will actually, but you know, the idea is there. But just as is, it works so good just as like a workbench. Could be, you know, 6 inches higher or so. Like earlier I had the fence sitting there like that, and you just put a clamp on it, and now it's upright in a position that I can work on it. Got all these little grooves and holes, are really nice for when you're working on stuff that's got weird shapes. You can put the weird shape in there, and just highly recommend, highly recommend. I took the table saw blade out just so that it's nice and flat, but the table saw still works, so we can just put that blade back in the odd time when we got to actually cut something. What's my plan on this? I think plan A, I'm gonna just stare at it for a minute or two, come up with a plan, a theory, a tactic, a system, I don't know, and then go from there. So I'm actually not even gonna clamp it there yet. I think I'm going to try to get these to line up again. This is pulled up too far, like that. So I'm gonna put it so this area is flat on the table surface and start hammering it from the back side so that the weight of the dash and the pressure from my hammering on here will push that back. I'm gonna use the cross-peen end of the hammer. Working pretty good. It's noisy, but it's working. Hello, John. Good, how are you? That was John that just stopped by. He owns this 1950 Fargo, which we're going to be doing a couple videos on this truck coming up real soon. Up top there, we've got a Fat Man Fabrications IFS front end that we're gonna put in this, as well as this big black Chevy and a 4-speed is gonna go in. So make sure to stay tuned for that. If you're not already subscribed and you wanna see this, hit the subscribe button right now. This has come quite a ways down. This is almost lined up again. So I think my next step is this flange right here is still a little warbly this way. So I'm gonna start getting that into shape. This, where it kicks up like that, I think is what's causing this to want to go that way. So as we hammer that out, it should relax that back down. Just using regular old hammer and a dolly for this part. Let's go off the side here. Is that still in frame? Can you guys still see what I'm doing? Oh yeah. I lost a little shim out of there, so I got a screw in there to kind of help, but it doesn't really help. I should just fix my hammer one day. Okay, how's that looking? Not too bad. Not too bad at all. I wonder, so if I weld this crack up right now, it's going to put a little bit of heat in there, which should shrink it. And I wonder if that will bring that plane down. I don't know. I guess all we can do is try it. Why not? Let's try it and see. Okay, I'm going to start on the end first. Because if I start up here, as we weld this way, it's going to get hotter and hotter and hotter, and there's a good chance for it to blow away. Whereas if you start at the end and work your way in, as you're going in, that heat's going to get absorbed into here, and there's less chance of it blowing away. Okay, that did suck it down a little bit. Quite a bit, actually. I'm gonna weld this crack up here, and then we'll hammer it out a little bit more. So this is just an old chunk of a leaf spring. And I'm going to use that to try and hammer this out a little bit. There's a little bit of a dent right in there that's really hard to get to. So I'm hoping that if I can jam the end of this leaf spring in there, I can kind of hammer it out from this side. Maybe. I don't know. All you can do is try it. Oh yeah, that's working really nice. Very nice. Okay, we still need to get this down though. I think I'm going to grind this smooth, and then I can hammer it from the other side flat on the table again. It's coming. These are just about gone. A little bit of a low spot there still, but it's probably 75% better than it was, but I think we can get better yet. Right there. I'm just eyeballing it, and right there you can see a little bit of a whoop whoop. I'm tempted to get the shrinker stretcher on this end, and if we stretch this a little bit, it should dip it in, but I'm also, that might just open a can of worms. Oh man, it's so close. That might be close enough. I'll mess around with it for a little bit here and see if we can get it a little bit closer. But I mean, it's definitely in the ballpark. If we take this end here and lay it flat on the table, there's almost no gap in there at all. If we take this end and lay it flat on the table, you know, we still have a 1/16 there and maybe an 1/8 there. Yeah, I'll mess around with it a little bit more and see if we can get it closer. I think I'm calling it there. That's close enough. It's not, if you hold it flat, you know, we still have a little bit of a bow right there. But if I hold the welding rod along the top here, well, it's kind of hard to do with one hand and hold the camera with the other hand, but it's almost the same profile along this top edge. So close enough. I think that, like, if the dashboard was already like this, I don't think I would notice that something had happened here. So that's why I'm calling it close enough. Obviously, we still have a chunk missing out of here. I don't know if this chunk was missing or if it's just like that and the column drop bolted there. I think that piece is tore out, but I don't know for sure. Either way, the reason I have not welded that piece back in is because we have to build a column drop still, and I don't want to weld a piece in there only to find out that, you know, we got to do something different for the column drop. So whatever we're going to do for a column drop, we'll incorporate this repair into that. All those dents that were along here are gone now. That's smoothed out really nice, and it tightened up a lot. I got these guys down with this little ball peen. Fun fact, the ball peen hammer was actually invented for doing body work, but nobody uses them for body work anymore. I do. They work great. We got this little dent knocked down, so I think our dash, other than this piece here, I think our dash is pretty much done, ready for body work. So on second thought, I am gonna make a piece for there, because I can't think of a situation where I'd build a column drop and I would need that kerchoink there. And we still got, there's a brittle crack right there. We got a pinhole there. So I think, I don't know if we want to go from here to here or just from here to here. I don't know yet. I think it's probably easier to just go to here and then weld that hole up than it would be to weld. That's a lot more welding and grinding. I just got some poster board and a couple magnets. I'm gonna hold this on the back side. That should be enough. And then we can trace our shape. Obviously, I'm not gonna make it all jagged like this. We'll make a smooth one and cut this out. Okay, I'm gonna write outside and inside, meaning that's the outside of the dash, this is the inside of the dash. So for our little gap right there, let's hold our welding rod on there. Somewhat like that. Is that straight? Pretty close, but it does have a little bit of a curve to it. Transfer this to some 18 gauge and cut it out. So that edge that we just made with the welding rod, I laid it across there, and you know what? It actually is just about bang on straight. So let's make our mark there. We've got our outside and our inside. Let's go cut this in the shear. So I've decided to make it big enough to cover both of these because I realize that this is probably super fragile and brittle like the rest of it, and if we're going to be hanging a steering column off of there, we should probably put as much good metal in as we can. Make sense? Makes sense to me. All right, we'll grab our air saw and probably cut, and tack it, and then we'll cut and tack along there. If you guys watched the video when I put the cowl vent in, I'm gonna do the same theory on here, despite that one guy that said that's never gonna work. So we're gonna use the air saw, which just has cut up hacksaw blades in it, and make an incision on our dash right at the end of our piece here. The reason we're using an air saw is because it makes the smallest cut possible. That way we can slice that back, fold the old piece out of the way, push the new piece down flush, give it a tack weld, and it gives us a nice, clean finish. Plus it makes this amazing sound. Isn't that nice? Oh. We're getting a little weird here. I think we need to tighten our clamp a little more. There we go. Okay, we'll loosen our clamp off. Pull the other piece down. Actually, I wonder. If this might work better. Okay, that is nice and flush. Let's put a tack weld on there. Cool. Do this side now. And then we'll just work our way all the way along. Well, that worked out really nice. I'm quite happy with it. We're gonna go ahead and clean these welds up now. We're gonna do it same as we did the other ones. Just start with the stone, then switch to the roll lock, and then finish with the sander. Cool, that worked out really well. I'm very happy with this dash now. I think probably just hit it with a couple heavy coats of slick sand to fill in these craters. Give it a block. She's ready for paint. Before we do that, I do want to build the column drop first, because in case we gotta do anything to it. But we'll probably save that for another video, because it's the end of the day. Got things to do. Got dogs that need to go for a walk. Got babies to feed. Well, I can't feed the baby, but you get it. You know what I'm talking about. I got other things I gotta do today, so we're not gonna build a column drop. But we can do that on a future video. And when that happens, you guys will know all about it. So thanks everybody for watching. I really appreciate it. If you want to support the channel, if anything that we did in this video is like, hey, that really helped me out on my project at home and I want to say thanks, go check out lgspeedcustom.com and get yourself some LG Speed and Custom merch. We'll see you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching.